in raising global awareness about land degradation, raising awareness about the synergies between land degradation, climate change, biodiversity, food security, and others, and really set the world on a trajectory where we are able to address the environmental challenge in a collective and a comprehensive way for the sustainability of this planet for us and future generations. Thank you again, and we look forward to your active engagement in this. Thank you very much.
I am the land that gives as it takes. If you fed me flowers, I will bloom. If you fed me fire, your cloth will catch its sparks.
I apologize for that technical problem. Technology is always an obstacle. I hope we're going to play it again with the better narratives right now. Okay. So as soon as the problem is fixed, we'll play it again. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed moderator for the first panel discussion titled Land Restoration, Policy, Synergy, and Opportunities. Please join me in welcoming what I call the Nyota Ina Yuna. I hope my Swahili is not as bad as my weight. Please welcome Ms. Patricia Momboa Kombo, Land Ambassador at the UNCCD, who will expertly guide our esteemed panelists through this critical conversation. Ms. Patricia?
Good afternoon. Land is our life, and we must protect land because we need land for our feed, fiber, and oxygen that we need. And today, I'm so delighted to be moderating today's session on policy and also on the road to UNCCD COP16 that will be happening later in December in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And today I'm delighted to have an amazing panel who will share synergies on how to work together, on how to restore our degraded landscapes, and also to inform policy that will help form solutions and agenda in during the UNCCD COP16. Allow me to invite Dr. Osama Ibrahim, the Deputy Minister for Environment, Water and Agriculture from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And Dr. Osama is the Deputy Minister for Environment for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He has more than 20 years of experience in water resources, management, planning, and policy. He has held several academic and research positions in King Fahd University of Petroleum and Mineral and King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. Dr. Faid is also the Deputy Chairman of the Board of National Center of Vegetation Cover and Combating Desertification, and aims to protect and restore the natural environment of Saudi Arabia. And we are so honored to have Mr. Ibrahim, the Secretary General for UNCCD, and it will be unjust to continue without recognizing his presence and also the amazing work that the UNCCD is doing to ensure we restore our degraded landscapes and also to ensure we protect our Mother Nature through protecting our land. So kindly applaud the arrival of Mr. Ibrahim. Okay, allow me to invite Mr. Ibrahim to join us for our panel discussion. And is the Executive Secretary General for UNCCD. Mr. Ibrahim brings to the position 40 years of experience in sustainable development, environmental governance, and natural resource management. In the year 2018, he was a special advisor to the Secretary General for the Sahel and supported ongoing efforts to advance the recalibration of United Nations integrated strategy for the Sahel. Before his position in 2013, he served as the Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director for the United Nations Environment Program. On that, allow me to invite Abdulkadir Aziz, the Minister of Ecology, Environmental Protection and Climate Change from the Republic of Uzbekistan. And this year, they will be hosting the UNFCCC COP. And finally, allow me to invite Ms. Maria Elena, the Deputy Director from Food and Agricultural Organization. She is a leading expert in global development on issues, and she has worked in the public service for 30 years. Over the last decade, FAO has helped to shape new global narratives in agriculture and strengthening food system. Okay. Okay, we are also honored to have Miss Indu with us. Kindly welcome her. She has been leading in restoration and also promoting the rights of indigenous women. And may I request us to stand as we usher in Her Excellency, the UN President, the UNIA President,
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Known to be the La Dame Inspirante, Her Excellency Ms. Leila bin Ali, President of UNIA Ministry of Energy, Transition and Sustainable Development of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She is an engineer, economist, politician, and expert in energy, security, and finance. Her words will undoubtedly inspire and guide us as we delve into the intricate nexus between land degradation, climate change, and biodiversity conservation.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's really an honor to join the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, our dear brothers, and the Secretariat of the United Nations Convention to combat desertification as we gather to address one of the most pressing challenges and issues, land degradation. And as we delve into the heart of today's discussion, I think it is crucial to recognize this widespread impact of land degradation in many regions, the Near East, the Middle East, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, etc. The associated costs, ladies and gentlemen, are staggering. More than $9 billion per year in the MENA region alone. The reduction in potential soil productivity and degradation of grazing land and the loss of forest cover underscore the urgency of our shared commitment to combat land degradation. In Sub-Saharan Africa, challenges are equally daunting, with 65% of soils degraded and an annual loss of 3 million hectares of forests. The commitment of countries to restore and sustainably manage 100 million hectares of land by 2030 is commendable, really commendable. However, as we will discuss today, significant challenges persist, requiring our immediate attention. Allow me to zoom into some of the specifics. Morocco, the Kingdom of Morocco, faces its own challenges, with soil degradation reaching threatening levels, exacerbated by water stress. Remember, Morocco is an agriculture country. And our commitment to address this issue is reflected in initiatives including the soil fertility map and the ambitious forest strategy to 2030, both pivotal in promoting sustainable land management. And we should recognize that land is the common denominator, the only common denominator among the 3 Rio Conventions, and it's through land restoration that we can bridge the objectives of achieving neutrality, biodiversity conservation, climate change mitigation and adaptation. So today's dialogue holds the potential to really strengthen this bridge and foster collaboration among all the conventions. Today, we will explore how countries can merge their individual and national action plans into a unified strategy, combining efforts outlined in the NDCs, in the national biodiversity strategies and action plans, and land degradation neutrality plans. Of course, you know what I'm going to say, coordination and coherence are essential to really unlock the full potential of our activities and fulfill our commitments under these multilateral environmental agreements. And in our pursuit of sustainable land management, technological innovation, we have remote sensing now, we have climate smart agricultural practice that are really now playing crucial roles. The collaboration on regional and continental and global initiatives sometimes, such as the Great Green Wall and the AAA initiative that was launched by Morocco in COP22 in Marrakesh, offers a framework to coordinate land restoration efforts across the continent. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, land degradation is really a global challenge that requires concerted action at all levels. And as the president of UNNCD, my commitment is really to promote cooperation and coordination between different conventions and initiatives to really maximize their impact. So all the discussions that you are holding here today and which were held yesterday during the EMEA Day are of really a good start in this long journey, because it's only by working together that we can restore our land ecosystems, ensure food security, and mitigate the impact of climate change and a few other challenges for future generations. Thank you very much, and I look forward for fruitful and insightful discussions.
Thank you very much, Excellency Ms. Benali. And we now start our panel discussion on policy and creating synergies and opportunities in ensuring we protect our land. And the first question goes to Excellency Ms. Benali. You spoke about creating synergies, ensuring all three Rio Convention work together in promoting and combating land desertification. And we know UNEA plays a key role in ensuring the three Rio Convention actually work together. How do we then ensure that UNEA continues to promote these synergies, and more so in promoting and combating land degradation?
Thank you very much, and thank you for asking me this first question. I don't want to impose in the panel. I think UNEA we really have to ensure that we build on what unites us, instead of focusing on what divides us. So that's the reason why, well, first we had, for the first time, the MEA Day yesterday, where experts can start working on actionable and credible solutions, especially when it comes to land degradation and soil health, which is a very important aspect for example, for our large fertilizers company, OCP in Morocco. It's very important to bring the experts together, because it's only by cross-fertilizing science and technologies that we will be able to win this challenge. Nature can heal itself, but up to a limit. The second aspect that I also wanted to mention is that's the reason why I've announced the creation of this alliance for goodwill environmentalists, because it's only by nurturing and by bringing financial expertise, technology expertise from the private and public sector, and providing these experts with a space to implement solutions that we can actually win the challenge, because we have the solutions. We only need to actually channel those solutions to the right places.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for honoring our invitation and sharing insights on how we can build synergies in ensuring that we protect our Mother Nature. Thank you very much, and we are honored and grateful for your time and the opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we go to His Excellency Dr. Osama. We understand the Deputy Minister for Environment, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And this year, UNCCD COP16 will be hosted in your country. And we've seen amazing work that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has done in ensuring degraded landscapes have been restored. What possible suggestions would you offer as we engage with policymakers in ensuring, or rather motivating, all sectors in coming up with proposals and pledges in ensuring that we come together in combating land degradation and drought, featuring on amazing work that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been able to do.
Thank you very much. And I think the first thing we would like to from policymakers is the awareness of the importance of land and how it is really important not only for human life, it's important for biodiversity. It's important for the balance, that we maintaining this delicate balance of our environment. 75% of the fresh water in the world depends on vegetated collection basin. If we lose the vegetation, the rain will come. Not only will not benefit, it will wash away the fertile soil with it. So that's really very significant. We have to recognize how our planet really works and how important land for us, as I mentioned, for food, for water security, for medicine. The forest is the source of oxygen for us. It's really a source of livelihood for millions and millions of people. 70% of sub-Saharan Africa, they depend on forest for livelihood. 50% of the global GDP depends on the natural capital, in one way or another. So we have to recognize the importance of land and other natural elements of our planet. The second thing, we have to acknowledge the severity of the problem, because business as usual created this. We already have 2 billion hectares of land degraded. And despite all the goodwill, we are degrading every year 100 million hectares, according to recent reports. And this could really lead us to really even more, problems. And the second thing, we have to understand the linkages between land degradation, biodiversity, and climate. It is not interrelated. To the contrary, it is highly related. Because when we talk about terrestrial biodiversity, depends on forest, depends on the vegetation cover, depends on land, and depends on the water cycle. So if that degrades, that will follow. Biodiversity will follow. And there are reports there shows that habitat loss is highly linked to land degradation, and habitat loss is one of the leading causes of biodiversity loss. We also have to recognize the interlinkages between land and climate. 24% of greenhouse gases are associated with various land use schemes or the misuse of land. The amount of carbon stored in land is 3 times the carbon in the atmosphere. So if we restore land, we restore biodiversity, we restore carbon sinks, and we also maintain our food security and the availability of food for billions and billions. So we have to recognize that. We also have to recognize the importance of engaging stakeholders. The business community has to be part of the solution. In nature-based solutions now, the business community is contributing less than 5% of the funding. Still, government still bear most of the fund. This is not to mention that the fund that has been put is way much less than the fund is required. But even with this small percentage, the business community who contribute significantly to land utilization and land degradation has to be part of the solution. And that does not change, we will not make an impact. And of course, the women has to be engaged, indigenous people, NGOs, the scientific community. Really, we know, I think scientific community help us a lot to understand climate. We have many indicators about climate. We know how many tons of CO2 are emitted, and we know each country how much is emitted, and how much is emitted from industry, how much is emitted from transportation, how much is emitted from power, and we know the impact of various mitigation efforts. We know even the scenarios. If which scenarios, this scenario will give us to 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees or others. And this is extremely important knowledge that will guide policy making. We still need more support for the science on land in terms of monitoring degradation, in terms of conservation, sustainable land management, and restoration at scale. We need the science to be mobilized. So we need all these together for us to really have a meaningful impact and change the course of land degradation and the drought as well. And maybe my other colleagues will talk about drought, because land degradation, climate, and drought are strongly interrelated. And we cannot just address one without talking about the other. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And one thing that I've picked from His Excellency is that we cannot solve climate crisis today, biodiversity tomorrow, land degradation the other day. All these crises are interlinked, and all of them offer solutions. If we bring them together, we link each other, and we build strong synergies in addressing them, because all of them directly impact nature and also directly impact livelihoods. And now we go to the Minister of Uzbekistan. And we understand this year you will be hosting UNFCCC COP. And drought, sand, and sandstorms have been so, massive in your country, and matters related to land degradation and also effects of biodiversity loss. How is Uzbekistan addressing these challenges? And where do you see the opportunities for the three conventions to support your efforts and address these issues in a synergetic manner?
Thank you for your question. Saying honestly, we are sitting now and according to the latest research, every minute Uzbekistan lost 9 square meters of fertile land. So it means it's a big problem, I think, to any country which facing land degradation and affecting climate change. When whole international community discussing about how the world can keep 1.5 degree on earth warming, it means if even it will be reached, but in Central Asia it means the temperature will increase by 3 degrees. So can you imagine how it will be affect on for example, for agriculture, for industry, for health of the people of our countries in Central Asia. And I think it's very important, as we are talking about the policy, to bring together first political will, second science, and third, it's of course very important, it's finance. Uzbekistan, as you know, became a place of a huge experiment, ecological experiment. During, starting from 50s of in Soviet Union, started to increase the production of cotton for some military purposes, to increase the production of gunpowder. And that's why the production of cotton was increased from 1 million ton in 60s up to 5 and 6 million tons of cotton around 1980s. So can you imagine the consumption of water was increased by many times. That's why we lost RLC. Before it was fourth size biggest lake on the planet, on the earth. But now this huge territory, more than 70 million square kilometers, became just desert. And historically, we had the two deserts, Kızılkum and Karakums. But now, between these deserts, we have a new desert, Aralkum, which before was sea, Aral Sea. And of course, this challenge, it's not a challenge only for Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan or Central Asia. I think it's a big challenge for whole globe, for whole Earth. And thanks to the policy afforestation initiative of our president, His Excellency Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, we already started a huge afforestation works on Aral Sea bed. And till now, we afforested 1,700,000 hectares of Aral Sea bed. But of course, it's not enough. And also, now, as I said, we are losing a lot of fertile land. And that's why we also developing the nationwide program, which we are calling Yashil Makon. It means green oases, which include some green belts around our big cities, and also creating some protection areas. And also, as I said, it's very important to use regional approach, because if even we will try to solve some ecological challenges and problems related to land degradations, it doesn't work without common efforts of all countries located in Central Asia. So once again, we hope that COP16 in Riyadh will be milestone in solving and finding solution for many countries affected by land degradation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, apologies, I meant to mean that Uzbekistan held their 14th meeting of Conference of Parties and not COP29. And now I have the privilege to speak to Dr. Ibrahim Dial, the Secretary General, UNCCD. And we understand this year, all in 2024, all conventions will organize their COPs. What would be the common action agenda that you would want the three Rio conventions actually to develop and have an integral approach in land restoration, climate change, and biodiversity loss?
Land.
So the integral, you want it to be land because land is life?
Land is life, and land, I said before, is a unifier. And this is not me saying, it is UN General Assembly, which basically recognizes that land restoration is an accelerator for the achievement of SDGs. You know, it's not only the 3 Rio Convention COPs. We had a COP, CMS COP in Samarkand. In 2025, we will have the Ramsar Convention in Zimbabwe on wetlands. We will have multiple meetings. What is at stake at the moment is the state of our land. I should stop speaking about land. I should call it food or water. Maybe I should call it the air and the clothes we wear. It is absolutely essential for life on Earth. So one of the factors that is, so if you have a good biodiversity conservation in a terrestrial area, you would have a good action on land and vice versa. If you reduce land degradation, it is a climate action because you reduce emissions coming from land use. If you have a good wetlands conservation, it's a good program for land restoration. Any activity related to pastoral land, conserving rangelands is a good land restoration. Any good activity on conserving conservancies here in Kenya or in Eastern Africa for wildlife conservation, for tourism, it is land. So we should certainly understand that when we say land restoration, it is about land. It is not one species, it is not one particular activity. But let me just speak for a few minutes, for a minute or so about droughts, because it is one of the other phenomena which will be addressed this year in Riyadh. We are in Kenya here, and whilst droughts were sort of coming and going, over the last few years, droughts decided to stagnate. You know, it's a new phenomenon because it was occurring on a regular basis, and it was coming and going. And people had time to breathe, ecosystems had time to basically regenerate, animals were regenerated, and then another drought would strike. But if you have 4 or 5 consecutive years of drought, then what can you do? If you are a pastoral community, if you have no water anymore to drink or even to irrigate for your production, so your economy is down, and you as people and the animals are also down and even dying. But enough of the difficulties. Let me just say a few words about land restoration, on how land restoration would provide multiple solutions to the challenges that we face. Any good land restoration would provide more nutritious food on the table, simply put. Any good land restoration program would provide you with clean water to drink, because land degradation, again, erodes the quality of the water that you drink. It's erosion, basically, which is deteriorating the quality of the water. Any good land restoration is a solution to climate, as I said earlier, but is a solution to building the economic resiliency of the communities and the resiliency of the ecosystems. So a good investment on land restoration provides multiple solutions to the different challenges that we are facing. So this is why I was not joking when I said land, because I'm a truly believer that we as human species, we are essentially terrestrial species. Maybe very few of us live in boats, but I don't know how many there are. We live on land, and we live off land. So our food is coming from the quality of the soil that we have. So it is absolutely critical to understand this. Maybe in some discussions, including here at UNEA, some people do not understand the importance of land. Apparently, there is a resolution that is still under discussion, and I hope it will be adopted today to signify the importance of land restoration for humanity. It is not for one country, it is for humanity as a whole. When you have half of humanity, almost half of humanity affected by a phenomenon, we have to take it for what it is. It is not to please one country to adopt a resolution on land restoration or one region. It is about us as humanity. So I really would like to close by again thanking the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for agreeing to host COP16. COP16 of the UNCCD will be a moonshot moment for land and drought issues. We have few places on Earth where we could have this. We have few moments in time where you will have milestone decisions. It's like if you think of the Climate Convention, Paris was a milestone moment. Well, Riyadh will be the Paris equivalent for the UNCCD. So please understand this. Please come prepared, not only as delegates, not only as civil society organizations, not only as leaders of local authorities, but also as business, because it's all of us putting our hands together that we can make COP16 a success. Thank you.
Land is food, feed, fiber. We depend on land. And my question goes to Ms. Maria Helena from Food and Agriculture Organization. Climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation is having a huge risk to our food systems. What do you see opportunities in ensuring that we protect our land and also protect and strengthen our food systems?
Thank you, and good afternoon to all. FAO is very happy to be associated to this discussion. Ibrahim referred that the connector of the three COPs is land. In FAO, we say land is where food begins. We cannot produce food if we don't have land. Cannot produce food if we don't have water. If our land is degraded, if we are cutting trees, we don't have water. And this means that if we have degraded land, we cannot feed the planet. And in this moment, we have 3.2 billion people affected by land degradation. They don't have food security because they cannot produce food. This shows the importance of land for to feed our population. But when we talk about food, climate change is also affecting food production. It has been referred that you have more recurrent droughts, we have more floods, those are also affecting. But also biodiversity loss. We are losing species, we are losing plants, and this making less availability of food, and also the nutritious component of the food is reducing because of droughts and floods. This, for FAO, you could see the importance of these three conventions. And for us, they are interconnected. We cannot look at them in isolation. And this is the reason why we say that we need to have a holistic approach, we need to have a holistic strategy, and we should avoid fragmentation. Riyadh will be the last one. Maybe Riyadh will take all the contribution to the COP on climate, the COP on biodiversity, and have the culmination of maybe a declaration how we can have a more sustainable world where land is not degraded, where we reduce the effects of climate change, we are more resilient to climate change. And one of the solutions is the sustainability of the transformation of our agri-food system. That we change the way we produce food, we change the way we transform our food, and also our consumption patterns. But I would like to talk, I think I don't need to talk much about the interconnection, the importance, but the solutions. We have solutions that we have proved. One of them, we have the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, co-led by FAO and UNEP. And what we envisage is to restore millions of hectares of degraded land. Degraded and also seascapes. It's not only the terrestrial, but also the aquatic. To be able to produce food, to have a better well-being, and also avoid displacement, because we have displacement. People are moving because they cannot live on degraded land. We have the Great Green Wall Initiative. FAO is leading, UNNCD is leading, we are working together. That's where we have been able also to restore land and to bring transformative initiatives, transforming degraded land in fertile land. Why we don't follow the example of the Great Green Wall and expand it around the world? We also have other examples in the Near East that has proven. Let's work together and this COP be results-oriented. How we can bring the solutions that we can move at scale. But when we talk about solution, we need to talk about financing. And the resources need to be available for us to be able to transform. Meaning that we have solutions. We just awarded 2 days ago 7 ecosystem restoration initiatives that has proven that they can be scaled up. Let's build on what we have done. Let's build on the solution and make this COP, the 3 of them, a solutions-oriented COP, that they are interconnected, that they have the land connecting them, but they are also solutions-oriented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we come to the closure of our first panel, we cannot fail to recognize communities and the amazing work that they do, and also the challenges that communities face when it comes to drought, land degradation, and also biodiversity loss. And our question goes to Ms. Indu from the aspect of communities. What opportunities do you see in communities in coming up with a unified action agenda on protecting our biodiversity and our land?
Thank you so much. And hi, everyone. I know that it's a little, and we are all like breathing. But please, I don't know if you hear what I hear here. I hear two ministers having the conversation that it is important to have the synergy. I hear two from UN that are saying it's so important to have the convergence. So this is actually what we need here in UNEA. Because after the UNEA, you said, Madam Moderators, we are going to have the COP of biodiversity in October, climate change in November, desertification in December. So before going there, we need action. And I wanted to hold you accountable as representative of the countries and as also the hosting country. We want to see the action at the COP26, how the ministers can join their effort, go beyond the political divisions, but to go to the synergy. It is the same government, same ministry, same people who are talking about biodiversity here, climate here, land here, to put all that together in synergy. And of course, UN are playing the secretariat and they are hearing from you. They are ready to do that. So the issue is from you. Let me come back to your question about the community. When we talk about the communities, we are talking about the peoples who are living in nature. We are talking about the peoples who are practicing what we are naming here. I give you just the example of the indigenous peoples. We are 5% of the world's populations. We are protecting 80% of the world's biodiversity. We are protecting 25% of the airs. That means we are the guardian of the ecosystem. We are the master and professor of restoring the land. Because when you look at the indigenous people's land, it's the most biodiverse, it's the most restored. And we do that only with our traditional knowledge, only with the way of living in harmony with the nature. Because we know that there is no government who can come and save us with the seed when there is drought or when there is flood. So we are the one who have to innovate and save our people. And that's why we are using those traditional knowledge. So how the community who are operationalizing in the community level to be in the heart of the decision making. So that's why I'm again excited to have both of you here and both of you there. How we can have, moving beyond of participation, to have a checking list, to have participation to take the decision together, participation that can lead to the action. And you all four talk about the finance that is needed. So at the community level, we need the direct access finance. We wanted to implement that. We wanted to do that, scale it. We don't want it to survive. We want it to live. So we need to scale it up. And community have innovation. Let me give you an example. We do a participatory mapping. I did that in Chad. I use the science knowledge from the satellite imageries, the traditional knowledge of my people, and the technology. We might be a lot of land, but the last example is like around 3,500 kilometers squares around Lake Chad, with more than 500 community chiefs. We ended up by giving for the first time women land right. That's what we want. We wanted to give the land right to women. Thank you. When there is climate impact or biodiversity loss, the man responds by running away because they say, let's go to the city to look for another job, send you money, or migrate far and never come back because it is the issue of dignity. But women are left there. They are behind because they have kids. They have the old peoples. So if we do not give them the land right, they cannot produce and protect those land. And secondly, if you do not invest on those activities, you do not invest on those women, how do you think that they are going to scale it up? They are going to do that in a bigger level, to share that, and to give also the chance to their younger generation who are growing up to continuously protect the land. So we need the investment to go directly to those communities. And most of the time, the investment are going through intermediary. And that's the things we need to see at the COP16, the reform of the finance. We need this finance reform who can be inclusive and who can include the communities to take the decision the way that they wanted to access the finance, the way that they can report back. Don't ask the community to come with the report of the thousands of pages, but ask them to do the direct activity on the ground. They will show you the way, because that's how we do it, and we know exactly how we do it. And then we know that the report cannot help the communities to read and make the action on the ground. But the report maybe can let other people's bureaucracy to change the policies. And this, my final points. We need the policy coordinations, and community know what they want to coordinate those policies. Firstly, we have the countries who are doing the biodiversity framework. Second, we have the climate conventions who are doing the NDC's revisions. And thirdly, we have the land degradation neutrality. So how three policies can be combined together, and thanks to all my panelists, it's really very exciting seeing you saying bye. Thank you. Yeah, so how we can have those three policies to come together, but guided by the community at the local level in order to have the right policies who can be implementable. We do not need the policies that we can write in the papers and that we cannot transform into the program or into the project that the community can lead and give us the exact result. And that's why we need all this synergy, we need all this engagement, and we need the community to be on the heart of all decision making. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as we wind our discussion, one thing that I've learned, any investment in land restoration is an investment in livelihoods. And allow me to, I welcome you as we appreciate our amazing panel. As I hand over the microphone to our MC, kindly help me in applauding our amazing panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Excellencies. Thank you, Patricia. Before we go to the break, please allow us to replay the video again and apologize again for the technical issues that came up.
What would the earth say if she could speak? Would she prevail harsh words upon us regarding her treatment? Or would she speak softly to encourage our change? It may seem she has no voice, yet we need not hear what she has to say to understand her plea. We need only take the time to look, to truly see the mistreatment the earth has endured because of us. She wants nothing more than to provide, to nourish, and to heal. Yet we take and we harm the very essence of life we should hold so dear. Our land. Land is a fundamental pillar of life on earth. It encompasses the habitats of plants and animals which affect our soils, our oceans, and our skies. The degradation of our lands impacts our water resources and the composition of our air. For too long, we took too little care of our soils and allowed our ever-growing populations of livestock to feed, surpassing the land's needs to recover and renew. The coffers of our lands have begun to run dry more rapidly than ever, turning areas which were once brimming with resources into deserts and wastelands. Environments that were once filled with wooded areas and rainforests are now vast, barren landscapes. But more than the land is affected by such changes. Land degradation amplifies climate change, since vast amounts of carbon stored in soil and vegetation cover are released due to land degradation. People are forced out of their homes. seeking out new lands as their resources have run scarce due to land degradation. Biodiversity itself is facing a direct threat as a great majority of life on Earth calls the forests their home. Every year, numerous plant and animal species are becoming extinct. We can no longer recuperate the sheer quantity of resources we have seized, nor can we restore the diverse species we have lost.
I am the land that gives as it takes. If you fed me flowers, I will bloom. If you fed me fire, your cloth will catch its sparks.
Our modern world is actively suffering the same fate at a pace such as man has never seen. Species evolve over time to resist illness and adapt to change. We cannot sit back and hope the land will simply thrive for us. It is imperative that the Earth itself will thrive because of us.
Thank you very much. We will take a short break now to rejuvenate and network before reconvening for our second panel discussion titled Land Restoration at Scale, Planning and Sharing Best Practices. This session promises to shed light on practical strategies and success stories in combating land degradation on a larger scale. Please enjoy your snacks during the break, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Good afternoon. We will resume our program in about 5 minutes from now. Okay. Going to start the second session right now. And I would like to call for Ms. Patricia again to come up to the stage and introduce the second panel and panelists titled Land Restoration at Scale, Planning and Sharing Best Practices. The session which promises to shed light on practical strategies and success stories in combating land degradation on a larger scale. Patricia, the mic is yours.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm kindly requesting all of us to join us, and as we start our second panel, discussion on scaling up and sharing best practices in ensuring that we all aim at restoring our degraded landscapes, and we'll be getting a lot of insights, best practices, what other nations and what other civil societies have been able to do to ensure we combat land degradation. And in my second panel, I'm so honored to have an amazing team. And allow me to welcome Dr. Khalid from the Chief Executive Officer, National Center for Vegetation Cover and Combating Desertification. He has served as a Senior Environmental Advisor and Head of Environmental Conservation Program at Saudi Aramco. He has held professorship in Department of Geosciences at King Fahd University, and he has also served as a member of Board of Directors of Saudi Wildlife Authority. Second, we have Mr. Bruno Pozzi from UNEP, and he is the Deputy Director of Ecosystem Division of the UN Environment Program. He previously served as the UNEP Regional Director for Europe, based in Geneva, covering 54 countries in the Pan-European region and EU. As a career diplomat, Bruno has over 20 years of experience in international relationship, diplomacy, politics, and has worked across different continents. We have Ms. Natalia Aleskiva, who has been the UN Decade Ecosystem Restoration Coordinator since May 2022 with UNEP. She has over 20 years of experience in the field of environmental protection, climate change, water management, and development. She worked as a Senior Networking Officer at Global Water Partnership in Stockholm, serving as Regional Water Partnership, and being the focal point for the thematic area of transboundary cooperation and water security. We have Dr. Murali, the Director G20 Global Land Initiative, and he has over 3 decades of global land management in experience in the private sector. Before his current assignment as the Director G20, he served as the Chief of Disasters and Conflict Program at the United Nations Environment Program. He's also an award-winning author in East Native, Malayalam, and social media influencer. And finally, allow me to invite my good friend, Dr. Musonda Mumba, the Secretary General of Convention of Wetlands. She is a Zambian-born environmentalist with 25 years of global experience in environmental management and sustainable development. Before joining UNDP, Dr. Mumba worked at the global headquarters of UN Environment Program for 12 years in different functions, including the head of UNEP Terrestrial Ecosystem Program. She is the founder of Network of African Women Environmentalists, and she has received numerous recognition for her work, including being named one of the 100 most influential women, African women, and also being honored as the Global Landscape Forum as one of 16 women from around the world restoring the planet. Karibuni sana. We start our conversation with Dr. Bruno from UNEP. Yeah, Dr. Bruno Pozzi. We understand land as a central meeting point of different SDG, and SDG 15 majorly speaks on, restoring and protecting our land ecosystem. We understand all land-based ecosystems are under threat of climate change, habitat loss, and desertification. How is UNEP supporting all the mayors in developing integrated action agenda that will help communities attain their sustainable development goals and also combat matters related to land degradation?
Yes, thanks a lot, and very happy to be on this panel this afternoon. We've heard it, land degradation is affecting both people and the planet, and we've heard and we repeat that in every meeting actually that we go to, that we cannot have sustainable development if we don't have a sustainable ecosystems, and therefore degraded ecosystems are a central concern for UNEP, but also for all of us. And the triple planet crisis of climate change, of biodiversity loss, of pollution, is adding an extra layer of concern and on pressure on land. And sadly, we witnessed increased land degradation, too often linked to the increased demands for agricultural products. And this is really what is very central in the thinking that we have. We have heard at the current rate, if we continue as we do, 12 million hectares of land are lost each year to degradation. And this is harming the well-being of at least 3 billion people. And it's costing about 10% of the annual global GDP in lost ecosystem services. So this is the trend that we have. And while we've got this trend, we also have a very clear business case to reverse the trend at global scale. And if we were halting and reversing the trend of land degradation, we could generate more than close to 1.5 trillion US dollars, in fact, per year of economic benefits, and then go a long way to achieve the SDGs. And we can do that, of course, with land restoration, but if we look at the bigger picture of the portfolio of what are nature-based solutions, if we scale them up, we can even add more, create up to $4 trillion in revenues and create 100 million of jobs annually by 2030. So that's the big picture, but how do we get there? How do we reconcile the need to develop and the need to conserve and restore land and turn land into the central pillar of sustainability by looking into better land management practices and improving soil health? When we look at the issue at UNEP, we committed to supporting sustainable land management, and we think it's a key solution in tackling the triple planet crisis. So we are assisting over 100 countries to take practical steps and measures to combat land degradation and desertification as part of the national action programs. And I can give an example in Mexico, in the Sierra Tarahumara, with a strengthened local governance, with the involvement of indigenous people, with decision-making that involves the communities around forest and land management. We've managed to increase by 30% the ecosystem services delivered. We are also working with communities and policymakers in Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, in the Southern African Cone, to implement sustainable land management practices that contribute to the revival of and the restoration of the entire Kalahari Namib ecosystem, which is one of the most beautiful in the world, one of the most complex one in the world, and we therefore preserving the ecosystem, the livelihoods in that ecosystems. But we're also looking then at food systems and sustainable agriculture from the environmental point of view. And our work on food systems and sustainable agriculture is very critical because of the land degradation that the rapid expansion and sustainable management of agriculture is bringing in terms of land degradation. our focus and what we want to bring more to the forefront is soil health as an ecological foundation of land restoration. Healthy soil build resilience to climate change. They increase the productivity and the profitability, and they bring biodiversity and biology back into the food production. And soil health, we've heard it as well, is one of these unifiers of actions in the Rio Conventions, and it connects the agendas in governments as well, bringing this whole of society approach that we really need, bringing agriculture, environment, finance all together. And because we are at UNEA and we hear a lot of things, I can't resist to bring one of the examples that I've heard 2 days ago in one of the workshops I was attending. And actually it's an example that got one of the flagship of restoration that we awarded this week. This project or program called Forest Garden, it uses methods of restoration, soil use and agricultural production that are really best practice in their field. They provide training in regenerative agroforestry to farmers, smallholder farmers mostly, so small communities. These farmers receive training, seeds, resources to plant thousands of trees and dozens of different crops that are diversified, that bring more food, diverse food, better crops, and improve the prosperity of the communities. And so the results are really impressive on all fronts. And they show that when land is restored, when soil is regenerated, then incomes are improved and community thrives. So this is, I think, the kind of model that I want to bring forward and that we want in our thinking in UNEP to bring forward as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And reflecting on the Middle East Green Initiative and the Saudi Green Initiative and how various vegetation play a key role in restoring our landscape, Dr. Khalid, you are the Chief Executive Officer of National Center for Vegetation Cover. Kindly share some of the best experiences that different vegetation has enabled the Middle East Green Initiative and the Saudi Initiative mitigates effects of climate change and land degradation.
Thank you, Patricia, for the question. As we heard from the previous panel, interesting panel, that all of these problems are interrelated. These conventions need to have a synergize between them because of the amount of the activities that it could be benefited all of the conventions. In the global level, we see that land degradation has affected, as we heard, more than 3 billion people, lasting more than 50% of the biodiversity, also loss of the GDP, the world GDP, around $6 trillion. All of these issues are in the heart of the land degradation and also on the earth sustainability. Therefore, in the global level, especially you are in this session focusing on the successful stories and how to learn from each other. In the global level, as my colleague here, Morali, will speak about the land degradation or the combating land degradation and habitat loss, that it is released on the G20. And on the regional level, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has released an initiative that relate to initiating rehabilitation of 200 million hectares and also growing or plantation of 40 billion trees, which allow technical and also political platforms between the countries in the region and the surrounding countries also to share knowledge, to also collaborate toward the land restoration and rehabilitation. In the national level, also we have initiated an initiative that focuses on the land degradation rehabilitation, which is the 10 billion trees in Saudi Arabia, which is called the Saudi Green Initiatives, and protecting 30% of the kingdom land. In this initiative, we are now already started by learning from the lessons from around the world. We have started with a study that benchmark all the successful story around the globe, where we put a plan, a very long-term plan, with a roadmap extended to 75 years, with projects, program, initiatives that focuses on land rehabilitation and plantation projects. This plan has already started, in fact, and now the kingdom had reached a number of 68 million planted trees in the last few years. And also, we have engaged the societies, and we see that volunteering in these projects and these subjects has reached more than 150,000 people, all volunteering in land rehabilitation and plantations. Of course, this SGI initiative focuses on plantation and rehabilitation for all terrains. We have divided the kingdom to 13 action zones, which is start from the mountain forest and to rehabilitate the juniper and other vegetation, which is very rich in biodiversity and very important for conservation. And also action zone that for coastal areas that restore the salt marshes and mangrove ecosystems, and also rehabilitate the national parks, the protected areas, and also the line, also the highways, and also the cities and municipalities. All of these action zones have resulted in clear roadmaps, strategies, how to approach these rehabilitation efforts, where we put 5 very focused principles to achieve that target. First of all, we are focusing on science and technology. Second, we are also focusing on utilizing the native species in the kingdom that could tolerate the high temperature and very low rainfall. Third, we are also concentrating in conserving and protecting the biodiversity and the plantation that we have already in the kingdom. Fourth, it's also sharing knowledge between all other societies in the kingdom, and engaging the societies, NGOs, and the whole people of the kingdom. These principles, we believe that will help us to achieve our targets. This is a massive initiative, very ambitious, and we think that's need the collaboration between all the societies and between all the members of the nation to collaborate together, either as business or government or NGOs or volunteers. In the science and technology, now we are using satellites, we are using drones for monitoring, for assessing the soil fertility, soil mixture. We are also assessing the health of the plants using the artificial intelligence and also satellite technologies. And at the same time, we are using that to help us, not only observing, but also protecting and protecting the vegetation and measuring the change that we detect on the vegetation cover, which is a protection. It is the first important factor achieving the target. And lastly is the importance of engaging the society by all levels. where we already now started on many projects that engage NGOs in plantation projects and in awareness for the whole society from adulthood to the children in the schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we move on. Wetlands play an important role in mitigating climate change, ensuring biodiversity conservation, and preventing droughts. This goes to Dr. Musonda Mumba, Secretary General, Ramsar Convention. Can you kindly reflect some of best practices of wetland management and restoration that address these issues as an integrated manner? What are some of challenges in such integrated approach when it comes to wetland restoration management?
Thank you so much, Patricia. My voice is almost disappearing, so I won't speak for very long. Thank you so much for inviting us, and really congratulations to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on your soon-to-host COP16, which is really fantastic because UNCCD as a convention is a partner of our convention, which is a multilateral environmental entity and also the oldest MEA and most experienced MEA in the world, because it was born in 1971 in Ramsar in Iran. And as such, wetlands are very important. We have over 2,700 Ramsar sites in the world. We are the only convention with assets. And a number of these wetlands, some of them in many countries may be designated, but some of them are not even designated, but are very connected to the Ramsar sites. Because birds don't know any borders or boundaries. They go across in animals, etc., even people. Which is why when the convention was born, and I need to give this context first, in 1971, the word that was used and still is in our convention text is wise use. To wisely use a space, which is why you find that our wetlands of international importance, or Ramsar sites, are not strictly do not go there or do not use it, because these are spaces of use. And as you heard from the Executive Secretary Tiao, land is what connects all of the MEAs, and this is what's exciting. Maybe perhaps let me put some of the challenges first before I give the solutions. Some of the complexities of wetland loss, and I'll give two examples. Some of the complexities of wetland loss have been very underestimated. And the element of intersectionality is what's very critical. I'll give the example of the wetlands in Texas, or at least sort of south of Texas in Utah. And a lake went dry. It was used for agriculture, for irrigation, and then the drought hit, and it went dry. Now, when evapotranspiration happens very quickly, obviously, all the pesticides that were used in the area were in the soil. When the dust storms started, they had to tell everybody to be inside, because that particulate matter was so toxic that when it went into your chest, it was like a nuclear bomb going off in your chest. Health issue, very quickly. So you begin to see that the loss of a wetland resulted in something so complex, it becomes a health issue, that it's no longer a Ministry of Environment issue. It is no longer a ministry. It's all of society approach and all the layers together, and that's what land does. The second example, thanks to my sister Hindu, she gave the example of Lake Chad. Lake Chad is a Ramsar site. It's a transboundary, one of our largest transboundary Ramsar sites here on the African continent. The loss and shrinkage of Lake Chad, and a lot of work done by UNEP, working very closely with NASA and many others to even look at the aerial footage of this shrinkage. The loss of this has resulted in conflict, has resulted in some insurgency in the region, so it becomes a peace issue. And as you heard from Hindu, how do you bring about this peace building? How do you bring about the restoration agenda, which is now what I want to talk about? It's about inclusivity. And you heard how she talked about the role of women and why they matter in the restoration agenda. It was so fantastic, and congratulations. Natalia and UNEP and FAO, on the launch of the 7 flagships. I see my sister Eliane here from C4 Aircraft. It was really fantastic, and congratulations on these flagships. These flagships matter for the world. The example from Sri Lanka is a classic example of what the world witnessed when the tsunami hit over 20 years ago. The fact that mangrove ecosystems had disappeared resulted in much more many casualties. We've seen that with the role and leadership of countries like the UAE, Indonesia, and also China, who's a current presidency for our convention. They're now looking at the restoration of mangrove ecosystems, because these mangrove systems are really the interface between land and water. These are the spaces. I was very lucky when I went to the UAE for COP28. It was my first time in the region. I went to Sharjah, to the UAE to the Emirate of Sharjah, and I also went to Fujairah. Now, people don't realize that this region does not have rivers, but by the mercy of Allah and really the gift of nature, when you go to Fujairah, you're literally facing in the wadi. It is dry, and in the rock is water, flowing, fresh, wonderful water. That supplies the drinking water of the city of Fujairah. And this, for me, is where the value of taking care of land and honoring land and making sure that it matters. And as an advisory board member of the UN Decade, I really also want to say the decade is an important moment of convergence. The world came together with this decade. And this is why I'm excited about the upcoming COP. And lastly, but not the least, I just want to say that we do, as a convention, also have the Scientific and Technical Review Panel, which brings together all the different constituencies, other conventions, other experts from around the world, to really support our 172 countries, to really reflect and think. And really, frankly, colleagues, let's remember that the life of anybody at the community, they don't think, oh yeah, that, like you said it, Patricia, tomorrow it's CBD and today it's Ramzar. And, you know, people are living in the moment. People are figuring out, do I have food to eat? Can my land produce the food? And that requires patience. Is it good enough? Is there enough water? Are my children fed? Do they have clothes on their body? We're living in the moment, and that is why multilateralism matters so much, that we all come together really for the urgency that is required right now, because we're living on borrowed time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Musonda Mumba, and also for the sharing experiences on wetland restoration and management. And now we move on to Ms. Natalia from the Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. The Decade of Ecosystem Restoration is coordinating collective commitments from countries, communities, and private sector for ecosystem restoration. Could you kindly please take us through some global examples where ecosystem restoration addresses both climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation?
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and big thanks also for those who's been referring already to the UN Decade several times, actually, today during the side event, but also before at other occasions. And as Musonda said, exactly, it's a movement. So we see the UN Decade as a kind of united, all of us united around, and really it's our time to make an effort. And as Hinda was calling for an action, we don't have time to waste, right? So exactly, we need to come with the action, and that's why what this UN Decade is doing, we're facilitating the action in terms of promoting these best practices, best examples. As already was mentioned, we had beautiful gala on Tuesday. Hopefully some of you were able to attend. It's really inspiring because, of course, we know that there's a lot of challenges. We're all asking for more funds, for more resources, for more people, for more knowledge, for more data, you name it, right? But the great initiatives, great example where we can build on and really kind of hopefully also inspire others to follow. And I've been also happy to hear from Saudi Arabia on the national level, on the regional level initiatives, and exactly how you go also on the global level, right? Once you start with very concrete, with very practical action on the ground, you go up and then you have much better benefits and the combined benefits in terms of Rio conventions, SDGs, and all the synergies across different agendas. So I would not go too much in the kind of more, let's say, theory and linkages across the conventions. And as I was asked exactly to speak more in terms of practical activities, the 7 flagships which were announced actually here at UNEA, they are implementing the 10 principles of the ecosystem restoration, which were developed under the decade and which were accepted also by several partners and several organizations. And building on these principles, I will just provide very short information on the flagships, but definitely it's more on our website, and we had also the flagships representatives here at UNEA, so happy to reconnect you, of course, on more details. Just to start with Terai Arc landscape from Nepal, and I would just bring some key elements which were making this initiative a success. And that's local community engagement, where they're really protecting the biodiversity hotspot shared by India and Nepal, which was heavily degraded. And then we saw tigers coming back, and they were trying to double the number, but now they have tripled the number of tigers. It's also a bit of challenge because you have always a bit of issue with nature-human interaction, how to say, right? But it's a great example. And exactly, you start with land restoration, ecosystem restoration, then you have tigers coming back. The second one, it's going a bit to a bit different ecosystem. It's restoration of Mediterranean forests. And what I really like that it's shifting away from traditional focus on fighting wildfires, because we're a bit more all of us are firefighting in our jobs and our sometimes family or personal life, right? But in this case, they're really moving towards prevention through the better forest management. So better you invest, let's say, upwards to prevent instead of then exactly having all these horrible stories, people, lives being lost, and lots of damage on the ground. The next one I really like also, it's from the region because we're in Africa, it's Regreening Africa. And in this case, they've been combating desertification, which is very much linked to UNNCD mandate. And then they've been boosting biodiversity and supporting local communities. So it's again local communities. It's again really kind of changing their lives in terms of restoration and moving to very kind of inspiring practices. Mangrove regeneration was already mentioned by Musonda, and exactly as it was more like restoring after tsunami, which was, of course, I mean, you cannot predict these type of things, right? But exactly, better you invest upfront in mangrove restoration, in some other ecosystems, in some buffers, in some wetlands, whatever, and then you build much better lives. Next one, still also the blue restoration, so I'm a bit on the blue part now. It's an initiative from Pakistan, which is called Living Indus. And yes, they're linking actually biodiversity, climate mitigation, and adaptation, and again, community resilience through nature-based solutions. So a lot of things you can do with nature. You can have green infrastructure, you can lots of other things which are really making your life different and which are making also your life much healthy. The next one, back again to Africa, and Bruna was already actually using this example, so I would not go too much in the details, but it's the initiative called African Farmers Transforming Food Systems. So yeah, it's, and Maria Helena Simeda was in the previous panel already referring to the, of course, food security and all the kind of challenges to feed the planet. So in this case, they're restoring degraded lands, and then they have better incomes and much better quality of life through this restoration. And the last but not the least, it's Action Andina, which is a social movement to save Andean forests. And for me, what was interesting, because it's a lot of culture, it's a lot of indigenous people, it's a lot of other elements which are also part of the restoration, which I think we all have to admire, and hopefully we will be able to scale up and implement it around. And just a bit of figures that these new flagships are expected to restore nearly 40 million hectares, and they're creating around 500,000 green jobs. So now we have 17 flagships because 10 first flagships were announced at CBD in Montreal. Also great examples. I would not go into the details, but happy to share, and you would find them on our website. And just to conclude, I would like to bring a couple of messages which I think are, let's say, very much interlinked with what we've been discussing now. And what we've heard actually from our flagships, then they've been coming here and we were discussing on Tuesday what we're going to do. So what they told us, they said that we have to invest into preventive restoration. So it's not firefighting, but exactly you have to prevent degradation. So then you have the land and ecosystems in terms of avoided degradation much better for restoration and much less costs in terms of investments, right? So this preventive restoration is something we have to look at. and work more on that side. The second thing is we've been also discussing that just planting, it's not a restoration. And we've heard already about soil quality, soil health, about all other elements. It all takes time. So in this case, we have to see exactly that restoration is a bit longer term effort, where we have to be also very clear that it's a commitment, and we have to work on this. And the last but not the least, that engaging local communities and indigenous people and youth and women, that's really important, because the restoration brings improved livelihood, green jobs, and food security, right? That people are really kind of, they're inspired also to work for restoration because they see the benefit and they really kind of feel the difference. So under the UN Decade, we actually now have a new call for the new flagships being open. So in this case, you know some great restoration examples. Please share a word. And the deadline is end of April, so it's a bit more than 2 months to prepare. Again, we will be having lots of exchanges and sessions. Let us know if any questions. And again, to conclude that under the UN Decade, we have the task force on best practices, which is led by FAO, and we're collecting these practices. Again, please share, please let us know. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and allow me to hand over the program to our MC as you help me appreciate our amazing panelists. Thank you very much for your time, for sharing one of the best experiences in ensuring that we all come together in promoting sustainability, combating land degradation. And what I've learned from the 2 panel discussion is that land restoration lifts people out of poverty and builds resilience to climate change. It's time we get united for land and show red card to land loss and degradation. Over to you, Mr. Sad.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patricia. And now, towards the last remarks, from the Trarza region of Mauritania to Nairobi, he spent decades to save the planet. He is the Babio of forestry, the Abba of forest product techniques. Ladies and gentlemen, the closing remarks by the Gidado of UNCCD, His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Thiaw, Undersecretary General and Executive Secretary of UNCCD, who unfortunately was called for an urgent meeting, and his speech will be delivered on his behalf by Dr. Morali, the Director General of G20 Global Land Initiative. Dr. Morali.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia, for wonderfully chairing this session. And I want to, first of all, thank all the wonderful speakers in the first panel as well as the second panel. When we were conceiving this session, we were really wondering, in a very busy day during UNIA, will we get all these very important people to come and participate during this time? And I was absolutely delighted to see that we had the UNIA president, whose time is probably as precious as gold at this point of time, spending time here not only to make an opening remark, but also stay back for the panel. Other ministers, all the dignitaries here. I am seeing my good friend Musanda losing her voice because she's such a wonderful speaker that everybody wants her in their panel. So, you know, what does it show? It shows the growing importance of land. And in 2020, when the Saudi Arabia got the G20 presidency, they put land at the heart of the G20 for the first time ever. And they started the global initiative on land restoration, where the G20 leaders committed to 50% reduction in land degradation by 2040, which at that point of time was considered to be 2 billion hectares damaged, 1 billion hectares to be restored. But as Dr. Osama mentioned today, now we are talking about probably 3 billion hectares damaged and 1.5 billion hectares to be restored. What does it mean? That will translate to probably $2.5 to $3 trillion to be spent to restore. And this is the money which also is needed to be spent on other things. That's why synergy is so important. So you cannot solve problems of climate change, problems of wetlands, problems of desertification, problems of biodiversity, problems of health in a separate manner. So events like this, where we are bringing together key actors and discussing land restoration, the heart and in a way integrative of many of the conventions, is so important, and I'm very delighted that we managed to do this. We are now on the road to COP16, once again in Saudi Arabia. But before we reach there, there is a World Environment Day, where again land restoration and desertification is the theme of the year. End of the year, we meet in Riyadh for what our executive director mentioned, a moonshot moment. This is probably the best chance, probably in a generation, for land to be on the highest agenda. Coming after 2 other COPs, which mean we have an opportunity to see through these various COPs, a land agenda, which starts actually in UNIA today with a land resolution. So I want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the UNNCD for organizing this session, all the panelists, and my dear young friend Patricia, and also all the wonderful audience who came and made this event a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Morali. Now we concluded the event. Thank you all very much for this wonderful session and this great event with our stars, panelists, speakers, moderator, of course, and all the main speakers. Thank you for attending this event. Thank you, Kenya, for the great hospitality, and see you all in Riyadh, inshallah, in December 2024. ما انا فاهم عليك تقعد تقول كذا